I stand here today
on an island in the middle of the mighty Mississippi,
clear-eyed about the fight ahead,
to declare
these words.
that
I am a candidate for president.
I'm running for president of the United States of America.
President of the United States.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Hi everyone, and welcome to another Woke Wednesday. This podcast was created to shed light on different societal issues which have been at the forefront of public discourse through one of the most divisive times in American history. More so, it was created with the intent of allowing those who have often been neglected, shunned, or misunderstood to have a chance to share their experiences and thoughts. I hope that this dialogue encourages critical conversation and activism amongst all listeners, and I hope you'll tell all your friends about it and share it on your social platforms. For the next few weeks, we are going to begin a series that focuses specifically on the 2020 presidential candidates. Each episode will detail the candidate's personal and political life, all with the hope of helping to inform our listeners and beyond on each of the candidates. By promoting insight into each of these people, our hope is that each voter is able to make educated, well-informed decisions on who they'll cast their ballot for in the next presidential election. I also want to encourage you to seek out other outlets like mine to have a wider grasp on who these individuals are and what they bring to the table for you and your loved ones, because we all know that everyone has implicit biases, myself included. Each episode will, of course, highlight our own personal thoughts concerning the candidates, what the country needs moving forward, and how this person could potentially impact our society holistically. Lastly, I want to point out we've chosen to highlight each candidate in alphabetical order instead of choosing who may or may not be a favorite of our own, in order to remain conscious of how our own implicit bias can affect how the episodes are previewed. We also want to point out that while every presidential candidate running has different noteworthy platforms, we're only covering candidates with a somewhat plausible chance of winning the candidacy. Moreover, we also want to recognize that there are a multitude of candidates running for this position, which makes it impossible to allocate an episode to every candidate there is. However, if there is any candidate that you all feel strongly about that we don't make it to, please let us know by engaging with us on Facebook and Instagram. We love hearing feedback from our listeners. And with that, on this episode, we're highlighting United States Minnesota Senator and lawyer/former prosecutor Amy Klobuchar.
Wow! Hello, everyone! Welcome, America, to Boom Island! Where are we? Now, we don't let a little snow stop us. We don't let a little cold stop us. Like, are you guys even cold? Tell the truth. Okay. So today, on an island in the middle of the mighty Mississippi, in our nation's heartland, at a time when we must heal the heart of our democracy and renew our commitment to the common good, I stand before you as the granddaughter of an iron ore miner, as the daughter of a teacher and a newspaperman, as the first woman elected to the United States Senate from the state of Minnesota, to announce my candidacy for President of the United States. I am running for this job for every person who wants their work recognized and rewarded. I am running for every parent who wants a better world for their kids. I'm running for every student who wants a good education, for every senior who wants affordable prescription drugs, for every worker, farmer, dreamer, and builder. I am running for every American. I am running for you.
Klobuchar's childhood consists of growing up in the small town of Plymouth, Minnesota, where she started the first ever Lifesaver/Lollipop drive to raise money for her senior prom. Her mother was a suburban school teacher, and her father was a local celebrity journalist. She graduated as valedictorian of her high school, which definitely exemplifies her intellect and hard work ethic. While her parents divorced in her early teen years but later reconciled, Amy's relationship with her father put an immense strain on their relationship. Her father was an alcoholic and never shy at making known his daughter's accomplishments in his work and even his own failures in some regards, being that he wrote the front page article which detailed his drunk driving arrest. His drinking got so bad that after his arrest, Amy, a then young lawyer, took the stand and confronted her father, claiming that he needed to get help for his addiction problem, which he finally did in the early 90s. During her presidential campaign and Brett Kavanaugh's Senate confirmation hearing, Klobuchar has not been shy in disclosing her relationship with her father, deeming it as a main reason for her platform to expand addiction preventative measures and implementing heavier measures for substance abuse treatment. After high school, Amy enrolled in Yale University, where she received her bachelor's degree in political science and graduated magna cum laude. During her collegiate years, she worked for the Yale College Democrats and interned for Senator Walter Mondale. Her senior thesis was a 250-page history of the politics of constructing the Metrodome in Minneapolis that was later published as her first book. When she left Yale, she attended the University of Chicago Law School, where she graduated with her Juris Doctorate and again graduated magna cum laude. Personally, her receiving 2 prestigious degrees and graduating at the top of her class, respectively, after coming from a more relatable working-class background than most Washington politicians, and rising to the top of these institutions has to be exemplified when talking about her background. Because, I'm not in law school yet, but she really did that, so props to her. Clearly, she is smart and very hardworking. Following her time at Chicago, she began practicing at various law firms where she became invested in telecommunications law. She became interested in politics after her daughter was born in 1995. She was born during the time when health insurance plans only allowed for new moms a 24-hour stay period after giving birth. Even though it was clear that her daughter had a problem nursing due to a condition that prevented her from swallowing, Klobuchar had to leave the hospital while Abigail stayed behind. During the next legislative session, Klobuchar testified in favor of a proposed law to force health plans to allow new mothers to stay in the hospital for 48 hours. When insurance lobbyists tried to delay the law, she packed the hearing with pregnant women and their children. The proposal passed in Minnesota, and then President Bill Clinton signed a similar measure into federal law in 1996. Y'all, when I saw this story, I literally was like, what the fuck? 24 hours? You only get 24 hours at the hospital with your newborn after giving birth? That is crazy. That is crazy. The fact that that wasn't a law until literally the mid to late 90s is insane. But I'm glad she did what she had to do to get it signed into a federal law. So go her. She then became the Hennepin County Attorney in 1999, then won Attorney of the Year in 2002, and was then reelected as Hennepin's County Attorney in 2002. And if you don't know, Hennepin County is the largest county in Minnesota. So she was the prosecutor for one of the biggest counties in the country. She then also became the president of the Minnesota County Attorneys Association beginning from November 2002 to November 2003. Her office took on one of the most high-profile cases when they chose to prosecute Kirby Puckett, a Minnesotan hero that was a retired Minnesota Twins player in 2 world championships. He faced allegations of dragging a woman into the restroom and groping her, but he was acquitted of all charges. Lastly, during her stint as prosecutor for Hennepin County, she traveled as a surrogate for John Kerry's presidential bid and spoke to different groups on his behalf. As far as the criticism for her time as a prosecutor, she embraced tough on crimes policies. Ooh, sounds like Kamala Harris. She pushed for harsher sentencing against nonviolent offenders like graffiti taggers, drug dealers, those who failed to pay child support, and white-collar crimes. She became invested for pushing for harsher sentencing for truancy as well, which obviously drew criticism from progressives because they don't need to be in jail, nor do they need to be prosecuted or fined these heavy-ass taxes. Just saying. She also called for changes in the law that would allow longer prison sentences for repeat offenders. Under Klobuchar, local prosecutors were assigned to police precincts to crack down on smaller offenses such as check forgery. In cases of property crime, they sought longer than recommended sentences for offenders with 5 convictions. Some men who failed to pay child support received felony charges. While these policies somewhat, like I said, reflect the tough on crime attitude Kamala Harris had as a prosecutor, what's different is that Klobuchar has never sold herself as a criminal justice reformer, like Harris or any of the other Democratic candidates that are running right now have. We also see that as a prosecutor, Klobuchar failed in prosecuting more than 24 cases where police officers had killed people that were a majority people of color or those that were mentally ill. Although she tried to alleviate this by partnering with the Innocence Project to prevent wrongful convictions that involved videotaping police interrogations and DNA testing. It still wasn't enough to remedy her past, being that communities of color still didn't buy that she fully understood her impact with some of her tougher crime policies and unwillingness to prosecute those police officers. There was also an instance when Amy falsely cited data from the Vera Institute of Justice, claiming that the incarceration rate for African Americans in her county had declined about 13% during her tenure. However, the director of the institute said that the figure reflected the overall statewide trend, not just her county, and that theirs, Minnesota being, disparities between black and white prison incarceration rate was nearly 4 times the nation's average. So it's a pretty fair assessment to say that her tough on crimes policies disproportionately affected communities of color and other underserved populations. Following her prosecutor stint, she became interested again in politics when Minnesota's Senate seat became up for grabs after Democrat Mark Dayton announced that he wouldn't seek re-election. She became a favorite for the nomination over all of the people vying for the seat, and she won the seat to become the first woman to win the U.S. Senate seat from Minnesota. She was then re-elected in 2012 and 2018. During her first year as a senator, she quickly got to work when the I-35 West Bridge collapsed during rush hour, and within 2 days, she and other lawmakers secured passage of a bill that waives a federal funding limit to start rebuilding a bridge. She has gained a reputation of pragmatism and bipartisanship as well. As a senator, in 2016, she ranked first among all 100 senators in sponsoring or co-sponsoring bills that were enacted into law, and has had more bipartisan co-support than any other Democratic member. Klobuchar has also led the charge against the opioid crisis, passed legislation to combat human trafficking, has worked across the aisle to expand educational and job opportunities to returning service members as well. She fought to ensure that the Minnesota National Guard members received the full benefits they earned and helped turn Minnesota's groundbreaking Beyond the Yellow Ribbon program into a national model. As a member of the Senate Agricultural Committee, she worked to pass the bipartisan 2018 Farm Bill to strengthen Minnesota's rural economy and give farmers the support that they need. Lastly, and although this isn't everything she's done as a senator, which, y'all, she has done a lot. You should definitely go research all of the other bills that she's been a part of passing or even writing. She secured $380 million to strengthen state elections infrastructure and help them prevent foreign adversaries from interfering with their elections. Ooh, I know another person who should have done that. Anyways, that's T.
People have done some drinking in high school and college, and many people even struggle with alcoholism and binge drinking. My own dad struggled with alcoholism most of his life, and he got in trouble for it, and there were consequences. He is still in AA at age 90, and he's sober. And in his words, he was pursued by grace, and that's how he got through this. So in your case, you have said here and other places that you never drank so much that you didn't remember what happened. But yet, we have heard, not under oath, but we have heard your college roommate say that you did drink frequently. These are in news reports, that you would sometimes be belligerent. Another classmate said it's not credible for you to say you didn't have memory lapses. So drinking is one thing.
I actually don't think that's the second quote's correct. On the first quote, if you wanted, I provided some material that's still redacted about the situation with the freshman year roommate. And I don't really want to repeat that in a public hearing, but just so you know, there were 3 people in a room, Dave White, Jamie Roach, and me, and it was a contentious situation where Jamie did not like Dave White at all. And I mean, this.
Okay.
So Dave White came back from home one weekend, and Jamie Roach had moved all his furniture out into the courtyard.
Okay.
And so he walks in, and so that's your source on that. Okay. So there's some old.
Drinking is one thing.
And there's much more. Okay. Look at the redacted portion of what I said. I don't want to repeat that in a public hearing.
I will. Could I just ask one more question?
Redacted information about that.
Okay. Drinking is one thing, but the concern is about truthfulness. And in your written testimony, you said sometimes you had too many drinks. Was there ever a time when you drank so much that you couldn't remember what happened or part of what happened the night before?
No, I remember what happened, and I think you've probably had beers, Senator, and so
you're saying there's never been a case where you drank so much that you didn't remember what happened the night before or part of what happened?
You're asking about, blackout. I don't know. Have you?
Could you answer the question, Judge? That's not happened. Is that your answer?
Yeah, and I'm curious if you have.
I have no drinking problem, Judge.
Yeah, nor do I.
Okay, thank you.
As a Democratic presidential candidate, she first gained national attention during the Senate confirmation hearings of Brett Kavanaugh when she asked him if he had ever blacked out from drinking, to which he responded, "Have you?" Kavanaugh later apologized, but Klobuchar's calm and cool response to his rebuttal, without obviously realizing or empathizing with her family's history with alcoholism, gained her notoriety because she didn't respond in anger as some might have. Now, as a candidate, she introduced a $1 trillion policy that would use federal funds and tax subsidies that would update the country's infrastructure, which she believes to be a top priority. She has declined at signing on to the Medicare for All bill, claiming that while she sees the bill as aspirational, she doesn't believe that it's a plan for right now, and has instead chosen to sign a letter backing Medicare Advantage, which is a growing alternative to traditional Medicare. She has also released a $100 billion plan to combat mental health problems and substance abuse over the next decade. She wants reforms to protect recipients of DACA and TPS. She signed on to the First Step Act, supports universal background checks, the closing of gun show loopholes, a ban on assault weapons, and banning bump and stock magazines. Holistically, Klobuchar has to account for her lack of transparency and accountability at holding those in authority to the highest of standards, especially in regard to their treatment of people of marginalized communities. She's faced criticism from her too moderate approach to an ever-growing progressive Democratic Party, like refusing to endorse free college for all and Medicare for all. The New York Times, alongside other media outlets, have detailed reports that Klobuchar's unusually high turnover at the start of her campaign came from her unwillingness to embarrass her staff and being overly demanding. One former staffer even spoke to when she berated him for dropping her plastic utensils for her salad, which then led her to literally using a comb to eat her salad. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that's nasty if it is. Girl, it's really not even that serious. Ew. Not only that, she has to figure out how she's going to reach out to those who lean very, very, very far to the left because of her moderate take on politics for years and her unwillingness to adapt to the changing times in some cases. For me, she's not someone I'd consider endorsing at this point because I think she's less than engaging. I mean, y'all, she's boring. And I saw that first at the She the People presidential forum. And she has done really nothing to remedy her past as a Minnesota prosecutor. So, she's not really it for me right now. I'm just saying. However, it is interesting to note that her strong Midwestern roots are interestingly to compare with competing candidate Pete Buttigieg, who has adopted a much more progressive platform throughout his campaign. Their differences could be a matter of personal experience, but it's interesting to note that Buttigieg is so much more younger than Klobuchar, and he's surging in the polls. Klobuchar still is not ranking among the top 5 nominees, which include Buttigieg, Biden, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and Kamala Harris. She's still struggling to crack into the polls and rests alongside the bottom tier of the top Democratic candidates alongside Beto and Cory Booker. However, the debate stage will surely be a crucial moment for her to continue to raise her profile and try and break into mainstream political consciousness. I hope that this episode was informative and thought-provoking for all that listened and for those that will listen in the future. I hope that Klobuchar's pragmatism causes criticism when needed and praise as well because of her ability to put aside partisanship and work for the common good of the people. While she hasn't polled fairly high as of lately, hopefully she will be able to engage the voters in the upcoming debate and show us why she believes she's the best candidate for this presidency. Remember, all of these opinions are my own, but they should be everyone else's. Have a woke Wednesday. Thank you for another Woke Wednesday. Transcripts of entire episodes will be available on the Woke Wednesday website. Episodes are written and produced by Hannah Mason and Trey Leonard of Lenico Entertainment. Episodes are hosted by Hannah Mason and edited by Trey Leonard. All graphics are designed by Anna French,